Hey, greetings. Welcome to Sean's Irish Whiskey Shelf. This is episode 3, and this is the first taste testing I'm going to be doing. Now, keep in mind that this taste test is not designed to be something where I taste each of these blindly, because this is a blind taste test. I'm not trying to figure out which whiskey is which. Rather, I'm trying to decide which one is actually the best tasting whiskey, at least for my palate. What you've got here are 4 of the more common Irish whiskeys that you can find in most liquor stores and some bars. I mean, Jameson here is going to be the go-to standard for bars and liquor stores. These other 3, Tullamore DO, Proper 12, and Bush's White, they are, I'll turn it that way for you, Bush's White, they are some of the also more common whiskeys. But for my palate, these are the ones that I want to try to figure out which really does taste best to me. So the first thing we're going to do, though, is I want to introduce these 4 whiskeys to you. And if you already know all about these 4 whiskeys and you really don't care to know any more about them, fast forward and go to the tasting section. Otherwise, you can spend a few minutes and I will tell you about each one of these. All right? Be right back for you.
Jameson Irish Whiskey, the elephant in the room. This is the #1 distributed Irish whiskey in the world. Some reports have it as outselling #2 by a margin of 10 to 1. Huge difference there. If you don't know about Irish whiskey or you're not an Irish whiskey connoisseur, this is usually the go-to. It's in almost every bar, it's at almost every liquor store. And if you go to a bar and you say you want some Irish whiskey and you don't specify, then chances are pretty good that it's going to be Jameson's. So this is by and large what most people think of when they think of Irish whiskey. Now, this is distilled up at Middleton Distillery, which is located in County Cork. There's no age statement on the bottle, but it's reported to be aged for 4 years. Standard alcohol content that you'll see in most Irish whiskeys, which is 40% ABV and 80 proof. And this is a blended Irish whiskey. So you're going to get some pot still Irish whiskey and you're going to get some grain whiskey. According to Middleton Distillery, the whiskey is matured in American bourbon barrels and Spanish sherry butts. So they get some of that taste from the bourbon and from the Spanish sherry. Middleton says they use malted and unmalted Irish barley, and that gets blended with grain whiskey that is produced from corn that they import from France. So that is a little bit about Jameson Irish whiskey. Bushmills White. Bushmills White is the #2 distributed Irish whiskey in the world, which trails Jameson by quite a little bit. However, Bushmills is made at the Bushmills Distillery, which is located in County Antrim. That distillery was founded in 1608, and it is the oldest continually licensed operating distillery in the world. And according to Bushmills, they have no intention of leaving anytime soon. The bottle says that the whiskey has been aged for 3+ years, or at least 3 years, but Bushmills' website says you can generally expect it to be about 5 years. Again, standard alcohol content, you're looking at 40% ABV or 80 proof. And also, this is a blended Irish whiskey yet again. This time we have some single malt blended with grain whiskey. And I should add that Bushmills claims that the recipe of the whiskey in this bottle is the exact same as they've done since 1608, and it has never been changed. So, something to think about when you pick up a bottle of Bushmills White. Tullamore DO Irish Whiskey. This is my first Irish whiskey, I had a bottle of this, actually several bottles of this on hand for an event, and this is where I really started to become intrigued with the different Irish whiskeys that are out there. Tullamore DO comes from the Tullamore DO distillery. That's located in County Offaly. I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe if anyone has a little bit more knowledge of the different counties in Ireland, you can correct me. I'll certainly take that correction. No age statement on this though. Tullamore DO has no age statement on the bottle, and they have no age statement on the website. But again, seems like you're looking at around 3 years as a standard for Irish whiskey when it comes to being aged. Again, typical alcohol content, 40% ABV, 80 proof. Now, Tullamore DO, they seem to have a thing for the number 3. This particular blended whiskey is a blend of grain, malt, and pot still. So there's your 3 big right there. Grain, malt, and pot still are the 3 typical versions, if you will, of Irish whiskey. So you have the triple blend, triple grains, and it's triple distilled. So they do like the number 3. They do age this in ex-bourbon barrels, ex-sherry butts, and they also use refill barrels, refill Irish whiskey barrels. So again, there's your number 3. Tullamore DO is named after the D.E.W. Their founder is Daniel E. Williams. If you take a close look at the Tullamore DO label, you'll see that DO really is D.E.W. And that's because those are his initials, Daniel E. Williams. So, Tullamore DO, another excellent entry-level Irish whiskey. Proper number 12. Now, this Irish whiskey is certainly a new one on the market. It doesn't have the age of Jameson or Tullamore DO, certainly doesn't have the age of Bushmills. But what it does have is name recognition. When you're an Irish whiskey that is founded by and uses as a spokesperson someone like Conor McGregor, you're going to get a lot of name recognition out of that. So if you ask someone, name me an Irish whiskey, most are probably going to say Jameson. And those that don't say Jameson might say Proper 12. That's just how well Proper 12 has been received, at least from a name recognition standpoint. So Proper number 12 is distilled up at the Proper Whiskey Distillery. I do not have a location on that. There is no age statement on the bottle. There's no report about the age of the whiskey on the website. Typically speaking, though, you're looking around 3 years for Irish whiskey, and I suspect that that's what this has been aged for. It's the standard 40% ABV, 80 proof, and like most entry-level Irish whiskeys, this is going to be a blended whiskey. You're going to get some single malt out of this, and you're going to get some Irish grain. Why number 12? Why is it called Proper number 12? Why not 13 or 10 or 25 or whatever? Well, apparently Conor McGregor grew up in an area called Dublin 12, and he wanted to pay respect or pay homage to that area, so he named it Proper number 12. Also, it's reported that he was able to take a gentleman by the name of David Elder away from Bushmills as he was starting Proper number 12. David Elder was the former distillery manager up at Bushmills, so by being able to pull him away from Bushmills and bring him over to Proper, he at least got that knowledge to help blend his whiskey. So Proper number 12, a entry-level whiskey that is certainly newer on the market and one to be considered as an everyday sip.
All right, so we're back, and I hope that if you did watch the little highlights of each of these, that you learned a little something about them anyway. Remember, these are all blended whiskeys. None of these are a straight pot still or a straight malted or a straight grain. All of these have a blend of 2 or more of those in the bottle. So typically what I do, you can see I've got my big collection back here. I don't really break into that collection very often. When I have my cigar in the evening, I typically use an everyday whiskey. I'll try to find a 1.75 liter. Usually it's Jameson, sometimes it's Bush White. Every now and again I'll find Tullamore DO or Proper 12. But that's my everyday sort of drink. But I really do want to know which is best, at least for me. Remember, your mileage may vary. So with the help of my son, who's my technical director tonight, he has put a number on the bottom of each of these bottles and a number on the bottom of each glass. And we're just going to go down the list. I'm going to try each one and we'll kind of figure out which tastes best. So, and these bottles are in no particular order. These glasses are in no particular order. All right, so the first one here. Not bad. Excuse me, not bad. A little water, wash that down. So that definitely has a peat taste to it. Almost a single malt sort of taste. It's not terrible, as you'll find out as you watch my videos. I'm not a really big single malt guy. That one does have a little bit of single malt taste to it though. So it's not hateful. Obviously none of these are hateful to me, but we'll remember that one. It's got a nice burn with the peat taste. So we'll set that one right there. All right, second glass. Let's see what we got here. All right, this one was smoother. Definitely doesn't have the single malt component to it. And it was definitely a little bit of a smoother, less burn to it than the first one. I think for my palate, I would put this one ahead of the first one. Okay. All right, number 3. Let's see what we got here. Not remarkable at all. For my palate, whatever this one was, this was a kind of just a standard old Irish whiskey. There aren't really any remarkable flavors to this one at all. Would I drink it again? Sure. I mean, nothing here is abysmal, but would I put it up front of these other two? No, I don't think so. It really, I wouldn't. All right, last one. Let's see what we got here. Smooth. This one was smooth. But I'd have to say that it's probably third The flavor profile in this one was a little bit stronger than the last one. So I had a little bit more distinctive flavors in there. None of it was single malt though. The burn wasn't as bad. I think it would be third. So there you go. I've tried 1 through 4. The very first one that I found to be the most pleasant was number 2. So let's see what we got here. Tullamore DO. Tullamore DO. That was the number 1 for my palate. I can't say that I'm overly surprised. Tullamore DO is thought of by some to be very underrated, and I really am not surprised at that. This is, if you looked at the videos where I introduce each of these, this was my very first Irish whiskey, where I really got into this whole, man, I gotta have Irish whiskey, gotta try it kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not at all surprised. All right, second on my list was number 1. Let's see what number 1 was. Aha, Bushmills. Again, not overly surprised. Look, folks, these guys have been making whiskey since 1608. Right? That's older than I am, probably older than all of you too. In the same distillery, using the same recipe for all those years. These guys are doing something right. They really are. I'm impressed, but I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. All right. Then comes number 4. Who was number 4? Proper 12. Okay, a little bit surprised at that, and I'll tell you why. Proper number 12 is a whiskey that it's almost like in the cigar world when we talk about Gurkha cigars. You either love them or you hate them, and there's not a whole lot of in between, right? Excuse me. Proper 12 seems to be kind of that same way, you know? You find people that really like it, and you find people that think it is the equivalent of, well, the byproduct of panthers drinking water. So, I will say it's nowhere near as good as these two. I held it up a little bit higher than Jameson's. Let me just make sure my son did me good here. Yes, he did. Number 3. It is better than Jameson's. It's got a little bit more flavor profile than Jameson's does. Is it near as good as these two? Heck to the no. Not even close. Jameson coming in dead last of my little palate taste test. I can't say I'm overly surprised at that one. Look, these guys, again, if you watched the video prior to the tasting here, these guys are the biggest distributor in the world of Irish whiskey. 10-1 over Bushmills, that's number 2. 10-1. So these guys are mass producing this stuff. Does that mean they have time to handcraft and, you know, use the same kind of care that Bushmills and Tullamore DO puts into their recipe? Probably not. These guys are cranking out some whiskey here. Is it bad whiskey? No. It's not bad at all. Okay? I would drink Jameson if given a choice, and you go to a bar and most of the time this is what you're gonna find, right? Hey barkeep, give me an Irish whiskey. He's gonna grab himself a Jameson and throw it in your glass. But does it hold a candle to these two? No, not at all. So, I now know for my palate, when I go to the liquor store, if I want to have the Irish whiskey that's going to make me feel the best and tickle my taste buds the best, right here, Tullamore DO. Still my first choice after it was my very first bottle. And I'm really not surprised with Bushmills. We're gonna have a taste test. I will know which is which, obviously, for this taste test. But we're gonna do Bushmills. I've got Bush Black up there. I've got Bush Red. I've got their 10-year, I believe, up there. Is my 10-year? Does that say 10-year up there? Can you see?
I see the red. I see the black. I think the 10 years on the other side.
Yeah, I think it is a 10-year. And I've got their Peaky Blinders coming. I should have that here within the week. So we're gonna line up some Bushmills out here, and we're gonna have some Bushmill fun. We're gonna try the different Bushmills. So anyway, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. If you got anything out of this, if you enjoyed it, please click the like button, give me a thumbs up, and consider subscribing. I'm going to keep doing this. I love doing this. I have a few subscribers already, so I hope you guys are enjoying. And this is just fun for me. I love Irish whiskey, and I hope that I can share some of this with you. So again, thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Be safe and be well.